Well, now take down your fishing pole and meet me at the fishing hole. I can't think of a better way to pass the time of day.
RodMob. This is The Splash, your Northern California fishing podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back and thanks for tuning in. I'm Scott.
And I'm Sarah.
And we're coming to you from the RodMob Treehouse Studios here in extremely polleny Portola Valley. It's Sunday, March 24, 2013, and this is episode 48 of The Splash, your weekly Northern California fishing podcast.
Well, we could pretty much do the whole show about all the action that's going on in the Delta, but we'll cover the rest of this week's reports too. Sturgeon fishing's been hot on the lower Sac.
Wild rainbows are biting from Redding to Red Bluff.
Clear Lake and Berryessa are just two of the hot spots for bass.
We'll hit on all the details later in the show.
Before we get started, we do want to do a quick shout out and thank all of you for listening. Over the past month, we've really had a big jump in the number of downloads and listens to the show, and we just want to say thank you for listening and for participating. The whole idea behind the RodMob podcast is to give you easy access to the latest local fishing reports, and we couldn't do it without all the reports you contribute each week. So please keep it up. We want to bring you all of the latest and greatest for Northern California fishing each week.
And by the way, one of the biggest ways we can get more listeners is by making sure we're featured prominently on iTunes, because that's one of the biggest ways people discover new podcasts. If you could take a moment and go to iTunes, rate our show.
4 stars, we hope.
And leave us a good review. We'd sure appreciate the love. The more good ratings and reviews we have, the higher up in the list we'll be when someone searches for fishing podcasts. We'll keep showing our appreciation by giving out some free stuff.
Spring is here, and we want your fishing reports for the podcast. We do our best to scour the web and talk to guides to get fishing reports each week, but we want to hear from you and get you on the podcast. So, speaking of free stuff, here's a little incentive. Between now and the end of April, everyone who leaves a report on the RodMob hotline will be entered to win a free RodMob t-shirt and some stickers. All you've got to do to enter is go fishing, then call us up at 855-RodMob1 and leave us a message with your report. We'll select 10 winners at the end of April.
Help us out, guys. Don't be shy. Call 855-RodMob1 and leave a report, and we'll get you on the show.
Okay, let's get started.
So, Sarah, what's up with the news?
Here's Sarah with the latest headlines.
Well, we saw a report in the San Jose Mercury News this week that several large grocery store chains, including Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, announced they won't be selling a new type of salmon engineered by biotech firm Aqua Bounty. The fish is a cross of Atlantic and Pacific salmon, and the company developing it says it's safe to eat and indistinguishable from other salmon. It's called Aqua Advantage salmon and can grow to market size in half the time of conventional salmon, so it can hit stores and turn profits very quickly. In December, the FDA concluded that the salmon wouldn't have a significant impact on the environment, and the FDA is expected to give the go-ahead to sell this salmon soon. Many people are concerned that the fish poses health and environmental problems, including endangering wild populations of salmon if they mix in. If Aqua Advantage salmon is approved, it may add momentum to the movement to label genetically modified foods. But, labeled or not, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, and many others won't be selling it.
Sounds like a underarm deodorant or something.
Aqua Advantage, it does.
Aqua Advantage salmon.
Well, for those... Go ahead.
And bravo to Trader Joe's and Whole Foods.
Yep, and I think there's a whole slew of other San Francisco Bay Area stores, smaller stores, that have joined in and said they won't be selling it either. Well, for all of us who prefer real salmon, the ocean salmon season is just around the corner. The opener for the California coast from Horse Mountain in Humboldt County all the way south is April 6th, and the forecast is good for a strong season. The Pacific Fisheries Management Council forecast over 834,000 fish in the Bay Area and Central Coast, and over 1.55 million salmon total, including salmon from the northern coast and the Klamath River. The season will be open for April, then several closures are expected in June or July to help protect winter run fish. The council will set the final dates at its April 11th meeting. And in the meantime, the commercial salmon season is tentatively scheduled to begin on May 1st. The Nevada Department of Wildlife is stocking the Truckee River with trout on Tuesday, kicking off the beginning of the spring fish stocking season in western Nevada. This first plant is happening at Fisherman's Park in Reno, and from now to early summer, the Nevada DOW will stock hundreds of thousands of fish in western Nevada waters. The Truckee River will get approximately 70,000 trout.
Stay on top of the latest fishing action. Subscribe to RodMob Podcasts on iTunes. It's free, and you'll always get the latest episodes.
The Tri-Valley Times reports that a new crop of baby trout was released at Shadow Cliffs in Pleasanton last week. The trout were raised from eggs by students in classroom tanks as part of the Trout in the Classroom program. About 200 kids and teachers whose classes had been participating in the program met up at Shadow Cliffs to set the fingerlings free and then had a full day of fishy activities at the rec area. Speaking of trout, I learned something new on NBC News this week about Dolly Varden trout. A recent study found that these trout, large spotted fish that grow to about 2 feet long, basically gorge themselves once a year so much that their gut expands to 4 times its usual size. Dolly Varden trout eat the eggs of spawning sockeye salmon, and with wild salmon populations in trouble, researchers have been studying the impact to other fish populations that depend on the spawning season for most of their food, like the Dolly Varden. These trout eat 25% of their body weight every day for a month during salmon spawning season, and this latest study showed how. First, they fast, basically not eating anything for the 10 to 11 months before the spawn. Then, during spawning season, their digestive tract actually changes to prepare for their annual feast, adding new gut tissue. The research says this is an evolutionary advantage because even at normal size, the digestive tract uses almost a third of the fish's resting energy. Temporarily growing and then shrinking the gut allows fish to shed that energy-sucking tissue in seasons when they hardly eat at all. The Dolly Varden trout live in lakes until they reach about 3 years old. Then they migrate between fresh and saltwater. At around 5 years of age, they stop their annual migrations and lurk in lakes and rivers, fasting until the sockeye spawn. I thought that was pretty interesting that they actually change their whole digestive system to be able to grow and then shrink it back so they don't have all that extra tissue all the time for the rest of the 10 or 11 months.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's come in handy at Thanksgiving. The Contra Costa Times reports that 5 local U.S. congressional representatives, along with county supervisors in the Delta region, recently introduced a new bill that would establish the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta as a national heritage area. The goal is to protect and promote the history, resources, and economy of the Delta, but it wouldn't affect water contracts. A similar bill was introduced to the U.S. Senate recently by Senator Dianne Feinstein. Meanwhile, the State Water Resource Control Board met Wednesday to take public comments and testimony on flows for the San Joaquin River, as they're proposing to increase flows from below 30% to 35%, saying 35% will balance needs of both water users and fisheries. Although wildlife and fishery supporters say nearly 60% river flows are needed to sustain fish and wildlife resources. Many Delta residents attended the meeting this week to provide comments. And for more info and to find out how you can support efforts to protect the Delta, visit restorethedelta.org.
Well, that's it for the headlines. Now for some tight lines. Here are the latest reports on the best Northern California fishing. Starting with saltwater, North Coast pier and shore anglers are hooking perch, jack smelt, rockfish, and snaring some crab. Both charter and private boats are getting consistent limits of crab and sand dabs. The perch and rockfish bite remains steady around Half Moon Bay from the shores and jetties. In South Ocean boaters are still scoring crab and sand dabs off Davenport and Pajaro, and there's been some reports of halibut hookups off the Mile Buoy off Santa Cruz.
In the San Francisco Bay, striped bass, skates, rays, and sharks are being taken from the shores of San Pablo Bay. The Napa and Petaluma rivers are producing both stripers and diamondbacks. Stripers and a few halibut are being caught by trollers working Point Pinole and the Pump House. The Pump House is also a good spot for sturgeon. Jack smelt and perch fishing has been good off Treasure Island, Oyster Point, and the Alameda Rockwall, and the South Bay is also starting to see some halibut action.
Pretty awesome action in the Delta. The great sturgeon bite continues in Sassoon Bay, and anglers are starting to hammer stripers all over the place. Reports have been great. What can we say? The bite is on. Get out there, guys. Anglers are also reporting an excellent largemouth and crappie bite. Captain Steve Talmadge called in this report to the RodMob hotline.
Hello, this is Captain Steve, Flash Sport Fishing. Giving you an update for the last week of sturgeon and bass fishing up in the Martinez, Benicia Bridge, and Malpaw Fleet area. Been fishing deeper water. The sturgeon fishing's been kind of up and down. You get one day you have some good heavy action, the next day you're scratching. We are picking up some bass, generally the smaller 22, 24-inch bass every now and then while we're fishing for sturgeon using straight grass shrimp. Best bait by far is still just plain grass shrimp with some salmon roe coming in second. Soaked a couple bullheads for a couple of days looking for the bigger bass coming through. Nothing on those yet. The smaller bass are eating the plain grass shrimp. We've had oversized fish. We were in 72 feet of water on the other side of Benicia Bridge. We had a 7-footer that took straight salmon roe. 3 days ago, we had a 82-incher that took grass shrimp. Then the following day, which is the day before yesterday, we had a nice keeper that went 54 inches new measurement, 61 inches old measurement. Water temperatures, the highest I've seen it since I got over there, I saw some 61-degree water, and there's a lot of fish still around, so this water temperature ought to spike them and get them to start chomping again. 3 days ago, we had a tremendous amount of jumpers around. Yesterday, not too many jumpers, just a few, and we scratched yesterday. But I'll be back on the water Thursday, and going to be fishing sturgeon through the third week of April since it looks like it's going to be so good. Then I'll move over to live bait and salmon and all that. This is Captain Steve. That's the report. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.
Don't miss out on your chance to get in some of the great sturgeon action with Captain Steve aboard the Flash. Give him a call at 510-881-0858 or check him out on the web at www.flashfishing.net.
Leave your fishing report on the RodMob hotline. 855-RodMob1.
And here's a report from Delta trolling guru Clyde Wands, who's been targeting stripers above the Rio Vista Bridge.
Here's the report. We caught 9 fish up to 11.5 pounds, all shallow trolling north of the Rio Vista Bridge. Everything on angry eyes, all shallow. Had a double on. The fish are here. They're just scattered. You find a school and work them a little bit, and they disappear. Go find another school. But there's plenty of fish in the Delta for everybody. Don't need to be in where all the boats are in the crowd.
Now let's look at the lakes. The bass bite at Lake Shasta is good on main lake points. Trolling for trout and king salmon has been producing some limits, but not too hot yet. The trout are up high and kings are down around 80 feet.
At Trinity Lake, the king salmon bite is kicked in. Look for them off the dam in arms anywhere from 60 feet down.
At Lake Almanor, some nice browns are being caught. The trout bite is steady off the causeway near the North Shore campgrounds.
Trout fishing at the McLeod Reservoir is producing big numbers for both shore anglers and trollers.
Clear Lake is a hot spot for bass right now. Big crowds and big fish. Jumbo minnows and A-rigs are getting it done, as well as drop-shotting worms off the tules. Great reports are coming in from the north end of the lake.
Lake Berryessa is also a hot spot for bass right now. The water is clear and the fish are moving up to spawn all over the lake. Some trout and kings are being caught, but it's all about the bass right now at Berryessa.
Lake Oroville is also producing good numbers of bass to 4 pounds and small-sized cohos.
Bass fishing continues to improve at Folsom Lake. The Peninsula and South Fork are seeing the better action. There's been mixed reports for trout and king salmon.
Anglers at Collins Lake are getting into some nice-sized trout thanks to multiple weekly plants. The beach, dam, and campground have been good spots from the shore, and trollers are getting the big fish while trolling anywhere from 10 to 25 feet throughout the lake.
Rancho Seco Reservoir has been kicking out some big bass. There's a trout derby coming up April 6th and 7th, and the lake will get stocked up prior to the event.
In the East Bay, lots of trout are being caught at San Pablo Reservoir, and reports are that they are big too. The lake continues to plant a ton of trout, and they're hopping on anglers' hooks. Hot spots have been the main wreck area, Sandy Point, and Scow Canyon.
More trout have been planted at Lafayette Reservoir, and that has anglers getting some nice stringers using Rapalas, Castmasters, powerbait, and crawlers.
Los Vaqueros Reservoir anglers are seeing an improved trout bite, and they're getting their limits with fish to 10 pounds. The coves are producing with night crawlers, power worms, orange mice tails or power bait, and garlic scent is recommended.
The staff at Del Valle reports the water clarity is clearing up a bit, and anglers have been able to see the bottom in many spots. The trout are still hitting, but they've switched to Castmasters, Rapalas, or night crawlers. The largemouth bass are also on the bite, hitting drop shot roboworms, lizard, jigs, and craw trailers, or rattle traps. The stripers have been hitting rainbow trout swim baits or shad-looking lures. The catfish have been after anchovies and stinky baits.
Shadow Cliffs is seeing a great trout bite. Trollers are getting consistent limits. And last week, a 17-pound trout was caught from shore on power bait.
The striper bite is hot at San Luis Reservoir. Most are school size, but the numbers are big for both trollers and fly fishers. Shore anglers have been doing well in the forebay around Check 12.
Keep us posted. Share your catch, tips, gear reviews, and more on our Facebook page. Facebook.com/RodMob.
And in the foothills, at New Melones, reports are that things are improving for trout and crappie, and a kokanee bite has started.
Lake Almanor is wide open for bass. Anglers are reporting 30 fish days with the fish coming up to spawn.
Fred Dorman from Pardee Recreation is reporting an improved trout bite for bank anglers at Lake Pardee. Areas like the East Bay Mud Boathouse, Rainbow and Blue Heron Point, and the launch ramp. Try chartreuse or rainbow power bait, eggs or worms, with garlic and glitter. Blue and silver Castmasters are also hot right after the plant. Trollers are continuing to concentrate in Columbia Gulch and upriver areas and are pulling out some nice trout and kokanee. The fish are still at 10 to 18 feet, and most boaters are sticking with night crawlers behind medium flashers and medium-sized dodgers in red, blue, and chrome. Kokanee caught recently were caught using night crawlers. Bass fishermen are reporting good luck along exposed rock edges along the shore, at the south end, and around the river mouth. Spinnerbaits are still the ticket. Pardee Lake Recreation has planted 12,000 pounds of trout so far this season.
Some more lunkers are coming out of Lake Comanche. Last week, a 12-pound largemouth bass was caught in the South Shore Marina Cove on a creator jig. Trout plants continue, and the staff at Comanche recommends using spoons and rapalas off Big Hat Island to the north corner of the dam.
Trout fishing at Lake Don Pedro has been good for trollers working areas around Fleming Bay, Big Oak Island, Ramus Creek, and Copper Mountain. Some king salmon are active, and some early season kokanee have made an appearance.
Live minnows and crawdads have been scoring the bass at Lake McClure. Trout and king salmon have been taken by trollers at the river arm near Bagby.
Trollers at McSwain Reservoir continue to find limits of trout with blade crawler combinations from the floating restrooms to the second fence line, and shore anglers report good action from the shoreline with rainbow power bait.
I saw that guide Rick Kennedy hit Bullard's Bar with a DFG biologist to collect some kokanee for research, and he hooked a bunch of little early season fish. I also heard that the bass bite's been good. I've never heard of this lake. If you guys have more information on this place, let us know.
In the Sierras, March Madness continues at Lake Tahoe. The fishing has been outstanding. Nice rainbows, browns, and macks are being taken by trollers throughout the lake.
Not much new to report from Donner Lake. The west end of the lake is where the shore anglers are getting into rainbows, and trollers are working the rest of the lake for macks.
Rick Kennedy of Tightlines Guide Service hit Lake Stampede recently for the first time this season and reported the access road is clearing up. Rick said they scored 5 nice macks, trolling size 15 Pro Troll stingfish, fishing the bottom in 60 feet of water.
The 9th annual Hook, Line, and Sinker Ken Hembry Classic was last weekend at Pyramid Lake, hosted by Crosby Lodge. Craig Kaiser's 12-pound fish caught from the shore at Popcorn on a red and white spoon won first place. A Polaris Sportsman touring ATV and accessories worth $9,500. Reports are the bite is mixed at Pyramid, but when you do hook one, they're big and beautiful.
All the latest in Northern California fishing. This is the RodMob.
Okay, now for the rivers. The Upper Klamath River is holding some winter steelhead. Some trout are being caught, and the bite should pick up as the water warms and the hatches begin.
A late run of wild fish showed up on the Mad River. There's been action from the hatchery to the Blue Lake Bridge.
There's been a good bite on the Eel River. Guide Tony Sepulveda of Greenwater Fishing Adventures reported that the best steelheading of the year took place last week after the storm, especially on the South Fork. It dropped into shape and many anglers found double-digit hookups.
The Trinity River is producing some wild steelhead and brown trout are active, and fly fishers are seeing some good action.
Folks are still getting 1 to 3 steelhead per day on the American River, side drifting night crawlers and swinging flies, and we hear the pressure is low on the river right now.
On the Sacramento, Mike Bode's Guide Service reports that wild rainbow trout fishing from Redding to Anderson has been very good. Last weekend, they were back trolling and got into 15 to 25 fish for angler, and the bows were up to 6 pounds.
We're also hearing reports of good fishing down to Red Bluff with fairly light fishing pressure. The Fish Sniffer reports fly fishers are using multiple nymph and egg imitations, and more conventional tackle anglers are using glow bugs, Putski yellow jacket salmon eggs, and small plugs. And if you just want to take a look at what's happening on the lower Sac, head over to our Facebook page and check out the video AC Fly Fishing out of Redding posted there this week. Some great highlights of the action they've been getting into lately.
In the Sacramento area, there's been plenty of striper action. Shore anglers are finding limits at Miller Park and South River Road. NorCal Fishing News says bloodworm, pileworms, and sardines are effective. Sturgeon fishing's been good on the Sac too, especially around Calusa and Knight's Landing. The tip from NorCal Fishing News is use eel, ghost shrimp, and pileworm combos.
The Feather River is seeing some stripers, and trout fishing has been good on the Yuba. We've got reports from Tahoe Fly Fishing Outfitters and Mountain Hardware that fishing is very good on the Truckee River. During BWO and midge hatches, browns and rainbows from 12 to 20 plus inches are being taken on dry flies east of Reno. Outside of that, nymphing is bringing the best results, and the word is the best times are from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
In the Eastern Sierras, we're hearing the fly fishing's been good on the East Walker River. Note, there's a brown trout study going on, so researchers are in the area asking for info on tag fish, including color, so they can determine if it's a wild or hatchery fish and the location of where it was caught.
And the Middle Owens River is fishing well, according to Tom at Sierra Drifters Guide Service. Flows are at 225 cubic feet per second, and Tom reports getting the big ones while drifting streamers.
Woo! Fish! Woo! All right!
Catch of the week.
This week, our podcast artwork comes courtesy of Book Ha Randy, who posted his striper limit report from Freeport in South Sacramento. Thanks for posting on our Facebook page, and congratulations on being this week's Catch of the Week.
And now for our poll question.
Last week, after watching an episode of Wicked Tuna, which highlighted some Googans, I think they're called, weekend warriors, with horrible fishing etiquette, we asked you about your opinion about fishing etiquette here in California. Our question last week was, do most anglers you run across respect your fishing space? 54% of you said yes, most anglers you run across around here do respect your fishing space. 43% of you said no, actually they don't, and you think this is a problem. And 3% of you said most of the time people do, but it's a whole nother ballgame once it comes to salmon season.
And now for this week's poll question. Well, with all this striper action brewing, we want to know what techniques you guys prefer to catch them. Now, you can only pick one. What is your go-to striper technique? Lures or bait? Head on over to RodMob.com to cast your vote.
Upcoming events you won't want to miss. Here's the RodMob calendar.
This Thursday, March 28th, the Fisherman's Warehouse in Sacramento will host a seminar on striper fishing the Feather River with Big John Enos.
March 30th, the California Outdoor Heritage Alliance Foundation's second annual Help Save California's Outdoor Traditions dinner will be held at the Shakespeare Club in Placerville. Go to www.outdoorheritage.org for more info.
On April 4th, the Fisherman's Warehouse in Fresno will host a seminar on delta fishing with Randy Pringle.
And also April 4th, Captain Khan will be speaking about salmon fishing at the Fisherman's Warehouse in San Jose.
April 6th and 7th is the Rancho Seco Recreation Area Trout Derby. For more information about the Derby, visit smud.org/Rancho Seco or call 800-416-6992.
April 6th is also the salmon opener.
And April 13th is the Siffy Derby at Collins Lake. To enroll, contact them online at www.siffy.org.
April 26th, the Golden Gate Salmon Association's annual Sacramento dinner is at the Scottish Rite Temple. www.goldengatesalmonassociation.com for more info.
For details on these and other upcoming events, check out our events page at rodmob.com. And if you have an event you'd like us to mention, just drop us a line at fishon@rodmob.com.
Well, that's it for this week. We'll be back next week with more reports and news. In the meantime, be sure to hook up with us on Facebook and Twitter for daily updates. Our Facebook page is also a great place to get tips and see pictures from other anglers.
And don't forget to call in your fishing reports to the RodMob hotline through the month of April to be entered in our hotline giveaway for a chance to win a free RodMob t-shirt. The number is 855-RodMob1, And you can leave us a message anytime, day or night. That's 855-RODMOB1.
Thanks for listening. Have a great week. And until next time.
What do you know about fishing in the first place? When did you ever catch anything?
15 years ago. I caught 300 pounds of blubber.
Keep us posted.
RodMob.